God bless everybody. Today it is January 25th of 2023. This is a Daniel 8 and 10 update. These are just the stories in the last 24 hours that are coming out because everything's moving so quickly. So let's just get right into this. President Erdogan, the president of Turkey, has basically denied Sweden's bid into NATO. And so Finland is trying to decide whether they have to go this alone, since Turkey isn't allowing Sweden to get in this, and all members have to agree to bring another member into NATO. So right as of now, Sweden's been basically removed from the list, and Turkey's not allowing them to do this. And I've been talking about how all these different proxies to Iran have been building up their borders. Hezbollah has built 20 plus military posts along the Israeli border, and so Gaza's in the same position. They're also building up their front line, as well as Israel. We've had those articles about Netanyahu going to the front line or the northern border and different things like that. And so all these groups are starting to get ready for a confrontation. So in this article, you can see that the U.S. is starting to clamp down on Iranian oil sales. Most of these sales are going to China. This is pumping more money into Iran's coffers so that they can continue their nuclear ambitions, and so they are trying to clamp down on this. But this will cause oil per barrel to raise, and we're already starting to see Brent move up to around $90 a barrel. And I've noticed that on the price around our area, fuel has moved up in the last week or so about 30 to 40 cents a gallon. So also the Republicans are talking about raising fuel taxes, and this will also raise up fuel prices fairly soon. So we're going to watch inflation move up, I believe, as fuel also moves up with it. And in this article from the Syrian Live Map that I use, the Chief of Staff of Iranian's armed forces have gone to Syria to meet their Minister of Defense. And so that's why I keep saying I just don't believe that Putin, Assad are going to make Turkey happy here, and you're going to start to see a breakdown in these relations to where Turkey is just going to invade. And he's not happy with all this going on with the Quran and everything anyway. And so I just see Turkey basically doing his own thing, and I believe he will break away from NATO, especially now that we're watching him not work with NATO and the Sweden application. So. And in this article, it indicates that Finland, now that Sweden's been pushed out by Turkey, not to be placed in an application so that they can get into NATO. This is causing everybody a lot of friction, and so Finland's going to have to determine whether they have to do this their own without Sweden as they move forward. And in this article, it talks about an emergency meeting that they had with the Jordan king. Netanyahu flies over there to meet with Jordan, and like I said, Jordan is up against a number of these different Iranian proxies, as well as they have bordering, or I should say maybe they're bordered with Syria and Iraq also. And so Jordan's in a precarious place as Iran is starting to push up against Israel, and Israel is starting to get ready for an attack, I believe, either on these proxies, or they're getting ready for an attack for Hamas, Hezbollah, and these other groups to actually attack them as we move forward. Now, sometimes you hit a report and you go, wow, this could really be interesting, because I've been talking about this Daniel 8 and 10 prophecy about the 24th. Now, we've hit that 24th date, and how in the vision Michael goes forward and then Turkey goes after them. And I've speculated, and this is pure speculation on my part, that it's interesting the timing of the U.S. and Israel, and how they have this historic military drill that's going to end by the end of this week. And now we've had a report that possibly this joint military exercise could target Iranian nuclear sites that would then escalate this war rapidly. And then, like I said, Turkey comes in later, and so Turkey's getting ready to do that land invasion. So the question is, could we possibly see, now that the U.S. and Israel have a large amount of equipment already over there in place, literally an attack on Iran and its proxies? Because if they don't do it now and they have all this stuff in place, they're going to have a lot of this stuff removed from the area, or they're going to leave some things behind. But it's going to take a lot it takes a lot to stage these types of military exercises. They actually planned this months ago, and the timing just seems extremely interesting that it's happening right now. But they have everything in place. So the question I would ask would be whether we would actually see something happen by the time this exercise completes, and we possibly could see an attack on Iran through Israel and the United States. And it indicates, sort of in the prophecy, that he's being withstood for 21 days by Iran, and then he sends Michael against him. And so all the things that have happened from the 3rd of January to the 24th matter. And then we'll have to see what happens after the 24th as we move forward. And in this article, the Israeli cabinet, or the government, has extended the West Bank emergency orders by another 5 years. And so this is going to cause a lot of regulatory issues with the Palestinian Authority and other recognized bodies in these areas. And so this is just applying more and more pressure on these Iranian proxies, the Palestinian Authority, Hezbollah, Hamas, and all these different groups that would potentially attack Israel in the future. And in this article, something's going to break. And I've been saying this for a few weeks now. There's an imminent warning that there's going to be a war in Gaza. And there's an article coming up that I think relates to this as we move forward. This National Security Minister, and I'm not going to say his name because I'll probably butcher it, is calling on reinforcing police and launching the National Guard on these borders, because they're getting ready for an escalation on Gaza and the West Bank and all these different areas, and how it's going to affect them as we move forward. In the same breath, they're having these military joint exercises with the United States. So there's a lot going on here, and that's why I keep saying, are we getting into a position to where the United States and Israel could potentially launch a preemptive strike? Or we would see, which would be crazy, Hamas actually and these groups launching something on Israel while we're there. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would think it would be more that Israel would launch something against them while they have the ability to do so. And to ratchet it up even more, in this article, Palestinian Resistance has tested a missile in the Gaza Strip, and so this is causing more and more problems. They're actually launching missiles and things, which isn't into necessarily into Israel and causing damage or harm to people yet, but it looks like maybe it's a preemptive test to potentially, sound a signal to everybody this is getting ready to happen. And in this article, Israeli military vehicles breach Gaza's central area border, and they go into there and they start leveling farmlands in different areas and things like that. And they're regularly breaching this Gaza border and destroying these lands to try to keep this occupation down, because there are a lot of people, they just come in and they're sort of like squatters. I don't know how to explain it. So this is where Hamas's main stronghold is, and so this is going to be a lot of tension and potential problem as we move forward in the next few weeks or days. So I just want to bring these articles to you so you can see what's happening out here. And this article talks a little more about Netanyahu's trip to Jordan and how they're trying to normalize, or they're going to leave the Temple Mount status quo. And that's pretty important because this has been this way a long time, and they're having a lot of outcry to have the Jews being able to pray at the Temple Mount, and this is prohibited. And so when the National Security Advisor from Israel went there, this caused a major outcry, and Netanyahu is trying to basically tell his allies that this is not going to be a problem as they move forward. And every once in a while I bring up an article with Isaac Herzog, because he is the president of Israel. He is the leader of Israel. It's not Netanyahu, as much as Netanyahu deals with a lot of the governmental bodies and everything. He's sort of ahead, but yet Isaac Herzog is really the president or the leader of Israel. And there's this, he's going to Brussels for this address that he's giving out at the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is coming up. And so that's a 2-day trip. So I just want you to get familiar with this gentleman, because he is part of the paradigm that I've shown you and how that possibly could affect us over time. And in this last article, I want you to understand something. If God places Israel under judgment, they will go under judgment by plagues and famine and disease first, as God always does. And then they'll go under judgment by the sword. And so I've talked about, and I have this on my paradigm, that we would start to see Israel affected by plagues and disease, locusts, and other things as we move into spring, because Gog is going to get ready to attack them in the fall. And so you want to look at Joel 1 and 2. Now, I've talked about Joel 1 and 2. This is about the sorrows and birth pains. You get into Joel 3, that gets into Armageddon. But if you look at Joel 1, it talks about disease, plagues, how they'll have basically potential cannibalism in the country of Israel as it starts to break down, how the nation's going to be affected by all this. And then when you get into Joel 2, it talks about how Gog is basically attacking the city and it's breaking down the walls, and it's raping and pillaging and all these terrible things that are happening on the ground to the Jewish people. And this leads up to 2/3 of the population dying by these plagues and judgments of God, and 1/3 of them being removed to the hidden place for the 1260 days between the signing of the treaty and abomination. So you need to understand that there's a procession of events happening here. But I do believe that Israel will be affected as Gog attacks, Erdogan attacks Iran and destroys it. He'll absorb this country. That will basically end the Daniel 8 portion of the prophecy, except that when Turkey moves to Egypt and Israel, he'll also be broken, as it's indicated, and he'll be destroyed on the sixth seal, because Erdogan is the white horseman, or the first seal, that's going to bring a quarter of the Middle East, or quarter of the world, or the whole Middle East into war. So once Iran falls, we'll see Turkey move to Egypt, and then Israel, which would then build these 10 full nations of radical Muslims that will end up basically in Israel by the end of this year. And we would then see that sixth seal pop. Now, I indicate it's in October based on the paradigm, but that's just based on the paradigm, and we'll see how that plays out. Let's see if this first date plays out. We're into this 24th date. As we move forward, let's see what happens in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and whether Iran is going to be attacked or Hamas will attack Israel. And if that would then happen, Israel would then retaliate against these areas, and that would then just escalate this whole thing. So this is my update for January 25th. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Something seems to look like it's going to break here, and whether it's Iran or Israel or a combination of things happening in the Middle East here that's going to bring a quarter of the world into war in the next year, I believe this is where we should be looking. So keep your eye on this area. God bless you. I love you. Find the open door. Find Jesus. Put oil in your lamp. Get ready. This year is going to be a terrible year in general, and if you haven't prepared and put oil in your lamp, it's going to be a lot harder as we move forward and fuel prices and other things start to move up. You just won't have the resources to be able to do this as easy later. So please put oil in your lamp and get right with God. God bless and have a great night.